Most of us had probably never heard of Brooke Hundley 9 months ago. Then a tabloid detailed her steamy affair with an ESPN colleague, baseball announcer Steven Phillips. Both Hundley and Phillips were fired. Now Hundley is suing, saying she suffered emotional distress. Now we're going to speak with her live exclusively in just a moment. But first, CBS News national correspondent Jeff Glor has the latest on this high-profile case.
The scandal made for damaging headlines. Brooke Hundley, a 22-year-old production assistant at ESPN, having an affair with one of the network's baseball analysts, Steven Phillips, former general manager of the New York Mets.
Having been a former general manager, minor league player.
Phillips had been married to his wife Marnie for 19 years. His affair with Hundley began after a meeting at Major League Baseball's All-Star Weekend last July. Hundley, 24 years, Phillips Jr. Phillips claims that when he tried to end the relationship a month later, Hundley turned to stalking, sending Marnie Phillips a letter detailing lurid sexual encounters and describing birthmarks on her husband's body. "I'm the woman he's been seeing for a while now," Hundley wrote. Marnie Phillips says Hundley even drove to their Connecticut home, causing her to call 911.
"I have a crazy woman who is involved with my husband, and she's come to my house to harm me and my children."
Once the affair became public, details of Phillips' private life became a favorite target of tabloids and late-night talk shows.
I realize you can't have steak every day, but please.
ESPN fired Phillips, saying his reputation had been, quote, significantly and irreparably damaged. Brooke Hundley was also dismissed due to, quote, misconduct. She's now suing the sports network for what she claims are $15,000 in damages from lost wages, emotional distress, and damage to her reputation.
It may be that ESPN was more concerned with their own public image than they were about Ms. Hundley's rights. You'll have to ask them.
In a statement to CBS News, ESPN says Hundley's claims are without merit, and we will vigorously defend against them. Jeff Glor, CBS News, New York.
Brooke Hundley joins us this morning in the studio for an exclusive interview. Good morning.
Good morning.
We just learned a little bit from Jeff's piece there, but tell us in your own words, you signed this settlement with ESPN. Now you're suing the network. Why?
Let me just sort of explain the timeline a little bit just to help the viewers out. When all of this happened initially in July, when the first sort of casual friendship between a senior level person and a low level employee had sort of crossed the line from I'm just interested in knowing who you are and what your story is and how come we don't work as directly with each other as some of the other crew members do. When it crossed the line into inappropriate questioning, touching, physical contact, solicitations for inappropriate actions, I immediately reported it to a supervisor who then dismissed my claims, told me to get used to it, basically explained that this was just what the women dealt with around this company, and even later at an additional point reiterated the fact that I should not be telling other people about this, that women tend to look bad in these situations.
So are you saying that harassment, you were told, is just part of the culture at ESPN and you should get used to it?
Absolutely. By the women, by female supervisors.
Which is a pretty strong allegation against any company. And not well received, I would imagine, by the folks at ESPN.
Well, it was never, and I went to a couple of different female supervisors and just sort of explained I'm dealing with harassment from a member of the talent, and they just told me a story about how they had been sexually harassed. It was almost as if, okay, you've been officially initiated. Mm-hmm. We all have a story to tell. This is just the culture, and so that they never felt any sort of responsibility to report it to anyone higher than them. They thought the best teaching tool was to tell me to, suck it up. So,
but moving along, because as you know, having worked in TV, we get a little bit tight on time. But so you do end up signing a settlement, though. You get fired, you sign the settlement, you come to this agreement. Now you're suing, though. Why?
I signed a settlement a month before this ever became public news, when it was just Steve bringing concerns about me to ESPN. They opened an investigation. They asked me, questions about his complaints. I showed them text messages, proof that many of his statements were inaccurate. They eventually decided, and speaking with both of our attorneys, we all decided that the best idea was to do a settlement between me and Steve, where any sort of liability for his actions would be cleared. And the only thing that ESPN, I didn't get a dime from ESPN. The only thing that ESPN asked was to not be liable for any of the sexual harassment claims. Mm-hmm. In return, I would keep my job. So we all went back to work for a month. Steve was asked not to come to campus. He would only work on remote games.
And then later on, then you did end up being fired.
Then I was fired.
But so just to get back to the lawsuit again, which was what we're talking about this morning, why are you filing it now? Is it just because you want those lost wages? You know, we heard from Jeff a minimum of $15,000.
Sure.
Or is there more to it?
Well, I mean, it's impossible for me to get a job and explaining to any future employer that I was fired for misconduct and not being able to explain that. Because in reality, you know, they're saying misconduct, that I failed to comply with an investigation that had been closed for over a month, that I had continued to work. There was nothing in my daily work ethic or anything in my duties on the job that promoted me being fired. So their claims I can't support to any future employers to explain why I was terminated from that position.
So do you feel then that this lawsuit will help, in fact, I mean, if nothing else, you're getting the media attention for it, so will it get you out there and you can say to people, look, I'm telling you, this is not what I did.
Exactly.
So that's mainly why you're filing the lawsuit, is simply to clear your name. We heard from ESPN, there are obviously always sometimes more than two sides of the story, a couple sides of the story. We know Steve Phillips has claimed that, at one point you started stalking him. These police reports came out detailing letters that you sent to his wife. We heard a little bit of that 911 call there. Those are tough things to move away from. So those are going to still be out there. How do you address those when an employer comes up to you and says, well, hey, you may see it didn't have anything to do with this, but I see this right here?
Sure. And, I explained it as that still had nothing to do with my daily work. It was, and there were many opportunities for ESPN to get involved to keep it from sort of spiraling out of control. Only when my claims were continuously dismissed and I was told basically to deal with this on my own, that I tried to deal with it on my own. And obviously it spiraled out of control. I made some really dumb decisions as a 22-year-old and not knowing who else to go to, who else to turn to.
Do you regret any of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got people involved who should never have been involved. I should have been yelling and screaming as loud as I could to anybody in the company rather than going to a personal family.
And is that what you would advise someone in the future? Because if this is the culture, as you say it is, at this particular network and perhaps in other companies, is it worth fighting?
Yeah, I mean, I would just tell people to literally just keep going to people until someone is willing to hear you out, until someone is willing to say, you know what, you're right, this isn't appropriate, we're going to do action. I don't care who you need to go to, but do it within the company.
Are you in touch with any of those people that you worked with or any of your supervisors that you went to?
I am. I still have recommendations from them. I still have people who said, So
they'll say you did a good job.
Absolutely.
But you say that's not enough.
It's hard when I can't have those people on the phone with me in my interview supporting me. All they have is the statement for my termination.
Brooke Hundley, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you. And now here's Dave with another check of the weather.
All right, Erica, 7:38.